All right, man. Peace. So, brothers, this is going to be volume 3 in the baby mama drama series, and it will be featuring Mr. DeMarcus Cousins and his quote-unquote baby mama. And that brings us to the real crux of the matter. To be honest with you, I easily could have started a new series called Baby Daddy Drama, or Emotional Ass Niggas Lose Their Composure Yet Again, volume 1. Because if we're going to keep it 100, DeMarcus Cousins is the constant in all of these toxic situations. He's the variable, not the female. But I guarantee you that they were two peas in a pod. As the scriptures tell us, can two walk together unless they be in agreement? So I'm not going to absolve either one of the parties. And due to the fact that this channel is geared towards the men, particularly the so-called black man, I'm always going to speak from that perspective. But like I tell you, brothers, at no point and at no time am I ever going to just quote unquote blame the woman. Because my channel is not about the blame game. It's always about what we can do to become better people, because we all make mistakes every day. But the point is to not make the same mistake over and over again. And when we make the same mistakes over and over again, many times it's because of our upbringing, the lack of tutelage that we received as youngsters, and the fact that we're just so proud that we don't want to gain experience from our bad situations or our bad experiences. And that's what we call wisdom. When we learn not to do the same thing over and over again, that's called getting wiser. And DeMarcus has a lot to learn, but I'm not going to come down too hard on him because I don't know how he was raised. From what I do understand, I believe he was raised by a single mother. He is extremely emotional. And I even saw during portions of the Golden State Warriors season last year, when he was a member of the team, that there were times when he wanted to explode, but he knew that he couldn't because of the culture that he was in. He thought he was going to win a championship, and of course, they came up short. This season, he was expected to be a major contributor to the title hopes of the LA Lakers. He recently tore his ACL, so I'm sure that had an impact when it comes to the level of vitriol with which he interacted with his quote-unquote baby mama. Because many of these women, if you allow them to see too many of your vulnerabilities, learn how to push your buttons, and they will if they can, especially if they see they're being written out of the deal. And that seems to be what his alleged first baby mama was so upset about, the fact that he was marrying another woman. He wanted to see his son. And as we're going to see when they play this short clip, if you pay very close attention, not only is the baby mama not going to allow DeMarcus Cousins to have his son attend his wedding ceremony, but you'll also hear his son in the background yell out, "No!" when the subject is broached of whether or not he wants to attend his father's wedding. Why is that? Because the son most likely has been alienated against him by his mother. So there's a lot of toxicity within the relationship dynamic of the so-called black man, and not just the black woman, but all other parties. So we have to look within ourselves to figure out, how is it that we can erase a lot of this toxicity? How can we improve things? And the only way that we can do so is by making better decisions. Because as I tell brothers, the main value that we have is in our ability to reproduce. Our seed is of the highest value. And what you'll find with most people, once they get from you what they want, their personality is going to change. Now, we can either say they became a different person, or we can say they're starting to reveal who they really are. Because not just the woman, but most people in this society, especially if they know that they're not a good person, they walk around with masks on. Some of them a series of masks, not just 2 or 3, maybe even 10. Because they're embarrassed at how their face actually looks. But let's get to the point of this story. That's going to be Mr. DeMarcus Cousins really putting himself in a precarious situation. He's going to make a murder threat against his quote-unquote baby mama's life. So of course they're going to talk about it, and I'm going to chime in.
Welcome to TMZ Sports. Evan here with Michael J. Babcock.
What's up, Evan?
We broke a bombshell story this morning. An NBA star allegedly threatening to shoot and kill the mother of his child.
A one-time NBA star. I'm not quite sure if I could call DeMarcus Cousins a star anymore. And the first time I heard about this story was a couple nights ago. A brother I know was telling me, "Did you hear about your boy DMC?" It took me a couple seconds. I'm like, who the hell is DMC? He's like, DeMarcus Cousins. I'm thinking of Reverend Running them. I don't know nobody named no damn DMC. I don't keep up with a lot of these nicknames that these dudes have.
because she wouldn't let their son attend his wedding, and the audio is recorded. We have a copy of that. Welcome to the show. The guy we're talking about, DeMarcus Cousins, who got married on Saturday. We did all these stories about how it was a beautiful wedding.
There you go. We were so happy that DeMarcus could still go on with the wedding, have fun.
And let me say this also, brothers. I'm not trying to put a negative element on his wedding or on his marriage, but I don't think that it was wise of him to get married at such a young age, especially while he's still playing. Now, who knows? He might be a needy dude because he does not seem that sharp. He does not seem to live his life with a great amount of perspicacity or sagacity, wisdom, whatever you want to term it. He seemed to be pretty willy-nilly. A lot of times women love guys like him who have a lot of money in their pocket and not much upstairs. They say, this is money in the bank. I can guide him until I get tired of him, put myself in an advantageous situation, and trump up a charge against him. Who knows if that's going to happen to DeMarcus down the line? You never know. Once again, I'm not trying to put any type of negative energy out there or a whammy on his relationship, but it would not surprise me. Because many of these females, they're like piranhas in the water when it comes to athletes. That's why the so-called black woman, the liberal black woman in America especially, gets so frustrated at prominent black men in sports or entertainment who end up with non-black women. Even though there are approximately 15 to 20 million black men in America, they're focused on the 2,000 black men in professional sports or in the entertainment world. I've stated this in the past, and a lot of people may not like me saying this, but the woman is a groupie by nature. In general, they are groupies by nature. That's why they're so concerned about people with celebrity are doing, who they're with, who they're marrying, etc., as opposed to being concerned with what's going on in their household and in their daily life. But just to get back to the point, I don't believe that any athlete should be getting married before the age of 40 years old, if you even believe in the convention called marriage in this society, which is just a contractual obligation between two corporations, i.e. John Doe marrying Jane Smith. She becomes Jane Doe or Jane Smith Doe.
Dance, even with the bad injury he just sustained, and it was all feel good for DeMarcus Cousins until this morning.
Tons of stars were there. John Wall, Eric Bledsoe, Draymond Green, but one person who wasn't there is his 7-year-old son. It turns out DeMarcus has a son with a woman named Christy West. Christy and the son live in Alabama, while DeMarcus got married in Atlanta. And the day before his wedding on Friday, Christy says that she got a call from DeMarcus asking if he could have their son for the weekend so he could.
You know, brothers, not to digress, but I have to wonder how long DeMarcus Cousins has been with this female that he's marrying, for him to be able to ascertain in his mind that this is the person that he wants to be with for life. You never know exactly how compatible you are with someone until you see their bad side. Once you see their bad side and how willing they are to go to their bad side, that is when you're truly able to discern whether or not this is someone that you can be with for a long period of time. And many of these females, it's almost like an alarm clock or a timer clock. After a certain amount of time passes, they just can't keep up the act anymore. It starts to erupt like a volcano, who they really are. So you have to take your time with them and find out what's really going on. DeMarcus just has way too much in the bank, no pun intended, for him to say to himself, I need to get married before the age of 30. What is the rush? I promise you, she's not going anywhere. When you have millions of dollars in the bank like he's supposed to have, I don't know how much he actually has, but he's supposed to have millions of dollars in the bank. These women will wait an eternity for you. There's no need to get married.
In the wedding, and she recorded the conversation in which a man who she claims is DeMarcus can be heard making a violent threat on her life. So take a look. Here's a copy of the audio.
Go shoot the ball. Go shoot the ball. All right. No, he's not coming.
Yeah, so.
Now, when you see a cat make a threat like that, what that tells me is that their relationship while they were together was extremely acerbic. And what that also is a telltale sign to me of is, as usual, the so-called black man does not cut things off at the moment that it needs to be cut off. Because the woman will often show you signs of who she really is relatively early on. Does she have an incessant need to be entertained? Does she have a wandering eye? Does she believe that you're the one who's always supposed to initiate conversation or any form of greeting? Basic interactions between human beings that is not supposed to be an issue. Which one says what first? These seem like little things, but they end up being big things because they're inroads into the subconscious of the woman. A lot of cats end up complaining and they say things like, oh man, she has entitlement issues. And you didn't figure that out until 10 years, 8 years, 7 years down the line. You've been married for 7 years. You've been married for 8 years. You were with her for 11 years. She showed you these things after the first couple of months of quote unquote dating, but you didn't pay attention because you were still caught in the infatuation stage. And I'm going to start delving into the different stages of how these quote unquote relationships in this Babylonian society, how they transpire and how they develop. The first stage is the infatuation stage. That's when the woman acts very accommodating and she tries to pose as some type of nymphomaniac who's always going to please you. She's always nice in conversations. And after a while, things start to decline because she starts to either get bored or she wants to see if she can shift the tide of the relationship over into her favor, where she can start making demands of you to adhere to conventions that she adheres to. So there's always going to be control issues, especially in this environment where people are suffering from post-traumatic stress disorder from all of their bad relationships. And DeMarcus Cousins, of course, he has very little wisdom. He's one of these cats that I look at and I say to myself, damn, thank God the Most High made this brother 6'10", 6'11". Because if he didn't have that height, there are certain dudes, I'm not going to say him per se, but there are certain dudes that you look at and you say, damn, if he wasn't gifted in this way or that way, he would certainly have a prison number on him. There's no doubt about it.
So she claims that is nothing short of a violent threat on her life?
It clearly is. He said he's going to put a bullet in her damn head. And that's probably something that he's accustomed to doing. He's probably accustomed to making those threats. And there's nothing okay with that. A lot of cats might try to blame her. She's just as toxic as him, but she gets off on it. She gets off on it back and forth, especially in the quote unquote Me Too era that we're in, where all of these women are recording you. Always be careful what you say on the phone, even in person, because there are surveillance systems that people are using to try to entrap others, especially when you're someone who has fame like a DeMarcus Cousins. She wants to ruin his life because he did not capitulate to her whims. She wanted to be the person at the wedding. And once again, as I stated, if you listen very closely to the clip of her on the phone with him, you could hear the son in the background going no when DeMarcus was asking her whether or not she was going to allow their son to come to his wedding. That rapport between the mother and the child is very tight, especially from the time that they're a newborn up until they're about 7 or 8 years old, because they're connected by an umbilical cord first, and then later on, the child receives its nutrients through the mother's breast. So that creates a series of connections between the child and the mother that don't really start to dissipate, especially with the male child, until they approach puberty. Somewhere around 8, 9, 10 years old is when the son finally starts to get over that bond that he has with the mother. That's if he's in a healthy environment. When you're in one of those matriarchal environments like so many black boys get raised up in today, you got dudes 30 years old, 32 years old, still worshiping the woman because in his mind, metaphorically speaking, he's still sucking on his mother's titty. And that seems to be the case with a lot of these guys. There's no disrespect. That's why I talk about them. The mama's boys in the NBA, Kevin Durant, DeMarcus Cousins, Draymond Green. These guys have problems with their emotional stability because there was not that proper balance in the household. That provides an avenue for manipulative women to do things like this. We just saw it with Tariq Hill. They're recording these dudes now because they know they can ruin their life. At best, they might be able to extort them. At the very least, they can embarrass them and possibly disenfranchise them, make them lose their contracts, etc. The woman is very vindictive, bro. That's why, even in conventional lingo, we have the saying that there's a very thin line between love and hate. The scriptures tell us that I find more bitter than death the woman. That's in Ecclesiastes 7:26. That's Solomon speaking on the woman, that she is more bitter than death. They have certain prospective machinations swirling around in their minds. They have a particular end game that they want to execute on a target. And when they're not successful, they just want to see you be destroyed, man. Not every woman, just the vast majority of them, particularly the Luciferian woman or the liberal woman.
She went to police in Mobile, Alabama and filed a police report. She went to the court and filed a request for a restraining order against DeMarcus, claiming that not only did he threaten her in this particular situation, but she claims that he has also choked her in the past.
I would not be surprised if that has occurred. DeMarcus Cousins seems to be one of those guys who falls in love with women very easily. That's why I tell cats that falling in love spirit, that is a deleterious spirit. You do not want to succumb to that. You love your woman. You don't fall in love with the woman or anything else in the flesh. That's like a drug dependency. When you take someone's drugs away from them, they will do anything. The vast majority of these dudes who are locked up for killing a woman is because they fell in love with her first.
Specify anything about that incident. She doesn't say when it happened, the context, anything like that. She just notes that he has gotten physical with her in the past, and she's requesting a restraining order not only to keep DeMarcus away from her, but also to keep him away from their 7-year-old son.
And to be quite honest with you, even if I were to be a naysayer to her allegations that he's put his hands on her before, or if cats want to get upset by that and say, well, how could she say that? There's no proof. Are there any police reports? We can say that, but the dude is on the phone talking about he's going to put a bullet in her head. So what can we really say now? We can't even defend the dude even if you wanted to. And once again, my channel is not really about defending anybody. It's really about self-assessment so that we can all become better. At the end of the day, we can't just always keep playing the blame game with everybody else.
In the notes, in these court documents, she says that she's willing to allow him supervised visitation, but it's clear that these two have a fractured relationship. She claims that she's in fear of her life, and we've reached out to DeMarcus, but so far we haven't heard anything back. Babcock, this is a massive story.
Brothers, we have to understand something, particularly with the modern woman. I cannot stress this enough. You have to take your time with the modern woman. And for you cats out there who are 15, 16, 17 years old, do not even consider any relationship that you're in as a serious relationship. Always make sure that you have your goals as your major focus, not some little chick in high school or college or whatever. I don't care how fat her ass is. I don't care how bouncy her titties are. I don't care how many freaky texts she sends you. Eventually, some other dude is going to catch her eye. I promise you that. That chick that you think that you so in love with, some other dude is going to catch your eye, and she's going to start little arguments with you for no reason. You're going to lose focus on what your goals should be, that being your schoolwork and success in life, and you're going to start getting distracted. You might get caught up in some dumb shit. You might even get desperate and do what a lot of lame dudes do, which is purposely try to get a female pregnant, thinking that that's going to get her to stay. All that's going to do is make you her debt slave, her indentured servant. It's what's called child support. Do not ever think that if you get a woman pregnant on purpose that that's going to make her stay.
It's scary and it's ominous when you listen to that recording, if that is in fact DeMarcus Cousins. A fractured relationship is one thing. There are a lot of people who have fractured relationships with their exes, but to hear him say that he was going to essentially have someone kill her is frightening. There's more.
I wouldn't quite call it frightening. I would say that it's unfortunate, because it's very obvious that whatever relationship they had, it was so bad that they probably both are accustomed to threats from either side, whether it be her to him or him to her. That's why she was recording him, because she understood that when she told him no, that he was going to say something that would incriminate himself.
Now, by the way, in the notes, in the request for the restraining order she filed, she wrote, he told me he was going to put a bleeping bullet in my head, even if he didn't have to get his hands dirty doing it. So she's saying that as the audio went on, that he claimed even if he wasn't the one who actually fired the gun, that he would get somebody to do it for him. That's like you said, that's an ominous, that's a scary threat.
I'm trying to approach this, I'm trying to put myself in his shoes here and understand.
Well, it's not that difficult to put yourself in DeMarcus Cousins' shoes. No disrespect to the brother, but he does not have much tact. I don't think that he was serious, because I think that if he was serious, he would not have told her anything. You don't really have to worry about cats like this who make threats of that nature. She should have been more worried about it if he would have said, no problem. See you around. Bye. Next thing you know, Matt Damon shows up to your house dressed in all black with a long range rifle with a silencer on it.
That he obviously wants his son at his wedding, and that's a caring thing, a loving thing for a father. Just that part. But I can't imagine ever getting to a point then where you would then make that threat and to say you're going to shoot somebody in the head. I can't understand. There's no excuse for it. There has to.
There's really not an excuse for it, but it is understandable. Because the more passionate you allow yourself to quote unquote fall in love with someone, the more passionate the hatred becomes. Once again, brothers, always live your life according to moderation when it comes to relationships, because it could end tomorrow and you cannot allow a quote unquote relationship to destabilize you or set you back in any way. Not in Babylon. Because there are no restrictions to what people can do. They could do whatever they want to do. So you always have to keep that in your mind. The same person who's lovey-dovey on you, hugging you and kissing you on Monday, on Tuesday, you might not ever hear from them again. It might sound extreme, but the shit happens.
Ramifications legally, basketball-wise, you cannot be allowed to say these type of things.
Well, cops told us that they've.
Damn, DeMarcus just had all types of mentally stable dudes at his party, huh? Draymond Green, Matt Barnes. Matt Barnes probably told him, damn, nigga, you didn't have to tell her that on the phone. I could have did that for you for free. I love driving places and fighting people.
An investigation into DeMarcus Cousins, so they're investigating this. I imagine the next step for them is going to be to talk to DeMarcus. Again, we've reached out multiple times to people connected to him, and we haven't heard back. But I would imagine if I was DeMarcus's lawyer on this one, I would say, number one, you got to figure out if that is in fact DeMarcus Cousins, or
I think that's their only.
Give me a break. Helen Keller could tell that was DeMarcus Cousins on the damn phone.
Because it's not even subtle. If it is DeMarcus Cousins,
which would be easy to confirm, by the way. You just subpoena phone records and see if he actually made the call from his phone.
As for the Lakers, they issued a statement addressing the situation with Boogie. They said, we are aware of the allegations involving DeMarcus Cousins and, of course, take this claim seriously.
DeMarcus' stock is dropping so fast that something like this could be his death knell in the NBA. You never know.
Are in the process of gathering information and will reserve further comment at this time.
So now we're waiting to hear his side of the story. I imagine he has an explanation. I'm told that he's already contacting crisis management experts to try and get his ducks in a row on this. So we'll hear from that. As the story develops, we'll be on it on CindySports.com.
Once again, I have no idea why so many of these superstar athletes are trying to commit themselves to relationships with groupies while they're still playing in their respective sports. I stated this in another video. I saw an interview that Christine He Raped Me Leahy had with a recently retired offensive lineman from the NFL who's become a Hollywood producer, in which he stated that 80% of NFL marriages end after that athlete retires from the NFL. Brothers, it takes so long to learn about yourself, much less another person and how they relate to you. When you're in an advantageous position in life, especially if you're a superstar with a high level of fame, you have no idea who really loves you for you. Your own family might change on you once they see you on television. People want to say that you're the one that changed, but it's them that change in how they view you. They view you as an asset now, not a human being, a flesh and blood human being. Derek Jeter laid out the blueprint for how to conduct yourself while you're in professional sports. You just bang broads, and then when you retire, if you want to get married, you get married. If you want to have children, you have children. There's no rush. The so-called black man is made to believe that he has to have kids at 22 and be married at 28, or he's not serious about life, all this bullshit. At 40 years old, your life is just getting started. Most men don't understand life until they're about 35, especially in the so-called black community, because most black men are not being taught anything in their household because they're being raised under the black matriarchy. Once you get to be about 35, you can pretty much see things for how they are. That's why cats get calmer at 35 and upward. You have children, now you have something to teach the child. At 22 years old, there's not much that you're going to have to teach your baby because you're still learning about life. Your brain is still growing. The human brain is still growing at 22. It does not stop growing until around 25 years of age. So take your time. DeMarcus Cousins has got himself caught up in a lot of nonsense because he had a baby with a low-level chick, and most of these women are low-level chicks. Okay? I promise you that. The vast majority of them are low-level chicks who worship themselves. They're narcissists and they're self-aggrandizers. No disrespect, it just is what it is. But anyway, we'll see how things go with DeMarcus Cousins. Peace.